Welcome to the show, everybody. This is You, Me, and BTC
ATC
Live.
Live.
We are here on another Wednesday, live show, 1 to 3 p.m. Eastern. Glad to have everybody. Covering all your latest Bitcoin headlines, some news and some stupid opinions probably because Tim's here, so it's
I
inevitable.
am. Yay.
Yeah, I guess we can say that I am Daniel Brown, and I'm here with,
Tim Baker.
And John Stewart.
and
Not the
also the
famous
Silk
one.
Toad.
Or the funny one.
Well, now I should be better now because Daniel explained to me right before the show that I had been pointing the microphone in the complete opposite direction, and
I knew it
Which is
sounded
exactly,
bad.
it's exactly what I used to do too. So I can't really blame you, but it
I mean,
happens.
in my defense, it is Daniel's, so I haven't been dealing with it as long. But
I now feel justified for yelling at you that one time.
you should have felt justified about that anyway. But whatever.
We'd also like to welcome the Silk Toad, our special guest, who's not really special because he's here every time, but still welcome. If you happen to be listening to the podcast maybe version of this, audio only, then you got to get to the video and check out the Silk Toad. It's a real toad, actually. I mean, it's a photograph, so it's not real, but it is a real photograph. So, okay, guys, our first topic. Oh boy, it's a huge debate, and we're actually Tim and I. Well, we'll cover this a little bit more tomorrow, but in kind of a different light because they did this whole stress test of the Bitcoin network, and so we're going to touch on the block size limit debate a little bit tomorrow for our regular, recorded podcast, our standard Thursday show. So check that out. And actually, before I get on. We're going to talk about the debate a little bit more today, so we'll get to that. But I also want to mention the second half of tomorrow's show is pretty interesting. We brought on two special guests. John, I haven't told you this yet, but John and a different John and Mike ended up on the show. They're fairly new to Bitcoin. They've heard about it. They've heard us ramble on about it. They're our good
Yeah,
friends.
they've heard about it for a while. They just have never taken any particular
Great,
interest in it.
Did they actually start using it?
No, they were just.
Not that I know of.
Because you said they were like new to Bitcoin or something. I was like,
Well, yeah, no, I mean new as in they haven't used it before.
Yeah,
They've heard of it, but Mike kept asking, well, what? It's like so sketchy and like it's so hard to buy and like you got to go through these back alley markets and everything.
Mike was
like,
severely
why should I trust
intoxicated
it?
by this point in the night when he decided to be a guest on our podcast, and I think that was a lot part of it because he was way too excited to be doing it. But yeah.
Anyway, so point is, tune in for that tomorrow. Tons of fun and a little bit more of this block size debate, but we're going to touch on it more now because I made that just because it's such a huge issue. I mean, people just go on and on about it, and I didn't realize this when we first covered it a few episodes ago, but it is a really big deal these days. And so I made it our poll. Should we up the block size limit to 20 megabytes or leave it at 1 megabyte? It's a 20-fold difference. That's a pretty big deal. And I don't know. What do you think? Is it too risky to do a hard fork? Is there too many people are invested in Bitcoin? We should just leave it alone and let people predict it, maybe. Or do we need more capacity? Is it going to become too expensive if we don't up the limit? So I'm not going to ask you to do what you think. Well, no, yeah, I will ask you just to put it out there, but just give it some quick thoughts. Just because like I said, we'll touch on it tomorrow. I don't want to harp on it. I just wanted to make it our poll for today. I'd love to get some responses. So yeah, we won't harp on it. But any quick thoughts? Any opinions? I will fill you in, John. I don't know if you've heard this, but they did a stress test of the Bitcoin network just a few days ago where one website just threw or tried to throw a whole bunch of transactions at the network within a few. Well, it was supposed to take like 32 hours, but the website's own servers crashed after about 15%. But anyways,
Yeah.
even that 15% really did slow down. Some transactions were taking like 80 blocks to confirm, and even with the standard fee, I think it said it took an average of 8 blocks to confirm, which is a pretty big delay. So, real quick, any thoughts? Up the limit or leave it alone?
I'd say up.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say up because I haven't heard a good argument from the other side.
Right. Other than it's just risky to change something, but it could be
It's
it
also
could be
risky to leave.
easy to right
You
to
just
leave
let
it
it go,
alone.
and then it just becomes clusterfuck,
Yeah.
and it just all backs up on itself. That's not good either. But I mean, you don't know that that's going to happen either. I worry. I see that likelihood happening more than something happening just because you make the block sizes bigger. I guess is why I'm
Yeah.
leaning towards that.
Yeah, so if anybody has a strong opinion, get to umeandbtc.com/live. That's our home base for this live show, and that's where the poll is. And actually, I tweaked things. I used to make it so that it closes right at 3 o'clock when we're done with the show. But I figured why not just leave it open all week. So if you're listening to the podcast, if you're watching the YouTube video later, get to umeandbtc.com/live, and the poll will be around for several days. And get your thoughts in. Check out what the results are for other people. Your options are, hell yeah, we need the more capacity. We need the extra capacity. No way, because I think the free market will take care of it. Or this is the shittiest debate ever, make it stop, if you want to vote for that.
Is that one of the actual choices?
I'm going to do that. What's that?
Is that one of the actual choices? Or is
Yeah,
that
it is. If you think it's a dumb debate, you can say so. You
I mean,
should
I
get
know
over
there's a
there, put your
right
opinions in. You know there's a what?
Right in.
Oh, a
yeah,
write-in.
Pay attention.
Yeah,
Daniel,
that's
come
true
on.
too. If anybody, if you want to fill in your own answer too, you can do that and let us know. If you do it during the show, we'll probably see it at some point and we can share your thoughts live. Or you can always tweet us. That's always an option. Tweet to @umeandbtc with the hashtag YMBLive, and we can check it out and probably read it on the show. You can tweet us questions, and we can try and answer them. Comments. Didn't we talk about tweeting us haiku before? I mean, if you want to tweet us a haiku, you are completely welcome to. Or a headline. That's obviously a big deal. If you have a story that you think we should cover, hey, send it our way. We'd love to see what's important to you and share it with the rest of the world and offer our own opinions. So, and Tim, he'll probably say something. I know it's not that helpful, but so there is actually a related story that I want to start with or touch on second, I guess. And it's interesting. It's an interview with John Matonis. He works for CoinDesk, I think he said, and he consults for several companies like BitPay and such. He was a founding board director of the Bitcoin Foundation, so that's always fun. And it's an interview with him about, well, actually, I'll just read the headline. So this is from Cointelegraph. John Matonis, Bitcoin needs its own version of LIBOR, LIBOR. I'm not 100% sure what that is. It has something to do with interest rates, and that was kind of his point. Is he was talking about interest rates and saying Bitcoin is going to need kind of a standardized interest rate, which is a whole discussion in itself, and he definitely does touch on that in this interview, but the headline is not really what I want to talk about. I don't know why they made that the headline. the reason that they reached out to this guy to interview him, I guess I'll give John and Tim the link here so they can be looking at it because it's an interesting story. I'm going to read some of his tweets that they have embedded here. Block size hard fork debate is instructive because it's precursor to inevitable fork revising block reward that increases the 21 million cap. Like, that's something in my mind that's never, well, of course it's been possible, but in my mind I could never see that happening. Increasing the 21 million cap, that's the whole reason. uh, I want to say 90%, but it's maybe like 30% of Bitcoin users are completely dedicated to it because of the 21 million cap. That is a huge factor for me, right? I hate when the Fed prints money. That's just who I am. I can't stand it. I think it's stupid, and it's one of the first things I ever heard about and loved about Bitcoin, and I still tell people about it all the time. Oh, there's a hard cap of 21 million, and you can never go beyond that. I love that, and that's a huge part. And apparently, this John Matonis expects that people in before too long, people are going to say, hey, well, we did a hard fork to increase the block size. Why don't we revise the block reward and increase the 21 million cap? Because that'll be good for everybody. I don't know. Interesting story. Are you guys same thoughts on the cap?
Yeah, I never really thought about the fact that, like, I guess they could do a hard fork and change the cap. That had never occurred to me.
Yeah.
I get why some people would have that debate. I don't understand what the connection is there as far as like making it a precursor. Is it just because
I
it's going
think
to be this big fork, or is it because there's something else related? Because I
I
don't
think
like,
well
and
that I think that's
other than making a hard fork, I don't really see any other connection between the two.
I think that is the main connection, because you're right, it is, they would both be hard forks and they would both be huge debates. So yes, that is a connection, but he also points to a few things that I don't follow 100%. It's some weird. It's a little bit of a stretched out line of thought, but he says that if we well, I don't know which way, if we do increase the block limit or if we don't increase the block limit, one way or the other, the miners are going to be. I guess what he's saying is if we don't increase the limit, then the miners are going to be getting smaller fees because they won't be able to fit as many transactions in each block, and so they're going to ask for a higher reward because they're not getting as much income through transaction fees, I guess. And actually, I guess that does make sense because we said this before several times. Several times. It started honestly at our very first recording, which isn't even published. It's lost audio. If anybody has it, let us know. But we were saying how as the block reward disintegrates, it gets cut in half every few years. When it gets low enough, there will the miner's income is going to be supplied by the fees, the transaction fees, and that's fine. But if you can only fit 1 or 2,000 transactions into a single block because the limit is 1 megabyte, then that's going to reduce the miner's income because the fees, if they're only able to handle 1,000 transactions, then that's all the fees that they're going to get. But if we increase the limit, they could handle 20,000 transactions and get a higher income. Now again, it comes back to the free market. Well, maybe yes, they'll get fewer fees, but each fee will be larger because people are competing for blocks. Sure, that could happen. But anyway, the point is, I think he's saying that if we don't increase the block size limit, or even if we do, it's still a limit, and that's going to limit the miner's income. So maybe they're going to say, oh, well, we can only fit so many transactions. The block reward is disintegrating. We're not making enough money. So either we're going to leave or we're going to need you to increase the reward. Does that make sense?
I mean, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Were you
Yeah,
guys
so
saying that? Were you guys saying that he was advocating for 21 for adding to
actually,
that?
that was part of the big. That's part of the
Yeah,
reason the story went up.
the
Is
weird. It's weird at the top, right? The title, because he just says in it that he isn't interested in upping the cap.
right, right. That the
Okay.
reason they kind of reached out to him was because of these tweets and because they thought he might be advocating increasing the reward. I'll read the other two tweets. Preventing the Bitcoin block reward from halving in July 2016 is the evil twin of a block size increase. And another one. If Bitcoin transaction fees continue to be insignificant because of excess block capacity, either hash rate drops or miners demand more inflation. And so they asked him, well, wait, do you actually support increasing the limit? And he says, of course not. I'm just saying that before too long, somebody's going to try. So
Okay. Yeah.
anyway, yeah, so again, and then the headline here is about interest rates, and he is saying because of, I guess, this inflation stuff, uh, how much inflation is there going to be, then that affects what the interest rates should be. Okay, I guess I don't really want to talk about that much. If people need an interest rate, they'll make an interest rate. If they don't need an interest rate, which in a general sense, I'm not a huge fan of loans. I guess I don't like debt just because it's debt. It just kind of has bad connotations. I wouldn't argue against it all the time. I mean, I guess if you really have a good plan and you really think you can profit by taking out a loan, I mean, it's a risk. It's kind of like insurance. Like it's a little bit of a gamble, but as long as you know what the monthly payment's going to be and what your income's going to be and what your backup plan might be. I mean, if you're willing to take the risk, whatever, that's your decision. In my opinion, I prefer to minimize risk, but whatever, it's there. It's a risk. It's your decision. So anyway, all right. So I've rambled. There's actually several questions here. We always have the links in the show notes if anybody's interested in learning more about that. They talk about fungibility and coin forensics. That was actually an interesting one because he's talking about like analyzing the blockchain, or actually he steps back into the fiat world and talks about banks and how they all try to comply and try to figure out where people are doing bad things and stop it. And he's just like, it's a joke. It's ultimately ineffective and counterproductive, is what he says. And that I'm all for that. I'm on board with him there. It's compliance is a waste of time. Just let people be, I guess. I don't know. Any thoughts there before we try and move on to something? Thoughts on compliance, fungibility, block size. Reminder: get to our poll and vote. Anything, Tim, John?
You pretty much said most of it.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I know. I talked a lot, so I'm gonna let Tim go next. This video, Tim, I see you have linked here.
Well, I didn't
Do
know if you
we?
guys wanted to do that. I do have an article too.
Okay. Is the video something you're saying we should play or just talk about?
Well, I mean, we could talk. I mean, yeah, play it and then talk about it because apparently it's Antonopoulos was in front of the Dutch government. They were asking questions, and this is the third question. Something about it's a two-part question. Please tell us what the different profiles are for the various types of investors and users and the types of financial products and services based on crypto tokens that they are using. Which that one sounds.
Okay, before we get too far into this, is it a YouTube video?
Yeah, can we not do that?
Okay. No, we can. There's a plugin for Hangouts that actually lets you play YouTube videos as part of the Hangout. So
Okay.
I've never used it before. I've looked at it, and it should work. And we'll get to that, but I'm going to let uh, two things. First, I'm going to remind people to check out the website and everything. And then we'll cover your article first, Tim, because that will give me more time to make sure this YouTube is going to work. And then we'll get to the video. So, like I said, umeandbtc.com/live. We just touched a little bit more on the block limit debate, and that's our poll for today because it's just such a huge divisive issue. So tell us if you think it should be 20 megabytes, 1 megabyte, or if it's just the dumbest debate you've ever heard of. Let us know in our poll at umeandbtc.com/live. At that same web page is you can do everything there. You can watch us. We also have a radio audio stream if you don't want to watch YouTube for some reason. And I will remind people, actually, this is kind of fun. We turn on that radio stream. Today it was like half an hour before the show, and we leave it running for a while after the show. So if you want to get a sneak preview, hear us ramble on and fight while we get set up, if you get to the website early for a live show and the video's not going, check out the radio stream, see if that's going. It's fun. We harass each other and just get kind of a sneak preview. Anyway, and another big thing there is tweeting us. There's a button right there you can click. It'll fill in at @UMeandBTC, hashtag YMBLive, and then send us a question, a comment, whatever's on your mind, a headline we should cover, whatever you like. And one more thing, we can't thank Jenna Trust enough. They've been great to us sponsoring the show. Jenna Trust, their goal is basically to find difficult things with Bitcoin and make them easier. Their project right now is wallofcoins.com, and it's a great place to buy and sell Bitcoin. That's what it comes down to. You can buy Bitcoin with cash honestly in minutes, half an hour. You could walk away with several $1,000s worth of Bitcoin. That's kind of my tagline for them. I've said it several times, but it's true. And selling Bitcoin, you get cash straight into your bank account. I use Wall of Coins every single day, and it's a great thing to check out. So wallofcoins.com, created by Jenna Trust, and I hear they're going to have more projects down the road. I don't have many details at all, but I'm super interested to see what comes around. So, all right, we are going to. Oh man, Tim and John are having a fight.
We're having a little
I'm
bit, yeah.
just gonna let you guys go. I'm gonna stop talking right now and let you guys introduce this whole article however you want.
We can share it, John. I mean, no.
Sharing is caring.
Well, Daniel already said I had to do it, so Daniel's kind of in charge, so I'm going to take it.
Go for it.
Yay. This is apparently Karl Mark Force the Fourth, which again, I don't know why you have a name like that, but he's the DEA agent accused of stealing nearly $1 million worth of Bitcoin while he was investigating the Silk Road. He was the one who apparently was extorting a lot of people for stuff, or at least trying to. And instead of sending the money back to the DEA, which would have been bad enough, he then just kind of... Actually, I don't know. I probably would have rather him have had it than them, but he entered a plea deal the other day. This is the article I'm looking at was published June 23rd. And this was following last week, I guess, the other U.S. Secret Service agent involved in the case, or the U.S. Secret Service agent involved in the case, Sean Bridges, pled guilty to money laundering and wire fraud. So Force has now pled guilty to...
apologize for that. Did you guys hear that?
Yeah.
Beeping, yeah.
I thought it was mine.
So I was just getting the video set up, making sure this would work, and I think it will. Anyway, go ahead, Tim. My bad.
Thank you for messing it up even more than you had before. But
anytime, Tim. You want me to mess it up again? Interrupt again?
Yeah.
I'm not going to do that. That would be annoying for our listeners. So.
Oh, no, you wouldn't want to do that. Anyway, Forrest is pleading guilty to charges including money laundering, extortion, among others, and he's going to face a hearing on July 1st to enter the pleas. So, Do you have something you want to add about it, John?
So basically, he's like, I did it. What does it say about the other end of the deal? Like what his sentence will be reduced to or from?
No, I hadn't heard
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah, that was one of the things I was interested in knowing, but it didn't say.
It's
I mean, he's like, I know you guys are going to get me, so I might as well just. I mean, there's no.
pretty much no matter what it ends up as, well, it's definitely not going to be life. So no matter what it is, I'm not going to be happy with it. So
Well, what would you want for him though, and not as a revenge for what happened to Ross, because you can't base it off of that. Well, you can, but
he's a government agent. It's life, right? The government
why?
agent.
Well, wouldn't you just? That'd be more of a death thing then, because he's been threatening other people with
Yeah,
killing
same
them
thing.
and extorting money. No, it's not the same thing. I'd much rather have someone kill me than throw me life in prison.
That's true. That's true. That's true. No, I mean, in a general sense, I think people can be redeemed. I think people can see issues and change. So I wouldn't actually want life or death. But as for his crimes, in a sense, I could see how any government agent could kind of deserve that, because that's the government kills way too many people every day. So why wouldn't they deserve life in prison or death? In a general sense, I wouldn't actually want that for him, just because I mean, he stole from the government, right? So he's actually kind of a cool guy.
I mean, yeah, he did steal a lot of a lot of funding from the DEA, so I have to congratulate you on that, sir.
What do you say, Tim? What would you want for him?
I don't really care. I mean, everyone's already in prison who he kind of stole from. I don't think anything's going to happen. I guess I'd say, as far as a moral thing, the people who he's threatened, they have a right to, I don't know, be repaid by that somehow. I don't know. He's probably still dangerous. He's probably still a psycho, so he should probably be put out of everyone else's misery. That's probably what I'd say.
I don't know.
Any
I think
thoughts,
there's
John?
well, this was that thing that we had a huge argument about when we talked about before, about whether or not it was good that he stole all this money or not. But
I'm not sure that was quite the question.
You don't have to start arguing already about it. Let him get into it, and then you can argue.
Yeah, no.
Alright,
I'm
that's
not.
something.
I'm not. Yeah, I'm not gonna bring that up again. I just wanted to point that out because I thought it was
Already brought
funny.
it up.
But I don't know. I think there would be. I think there's a certain amount of like poetic justice in him going to prison because of how many people he probably sent to prison or he was responsible for going to prison. So I kind of like that aspect of it. I don't really know or care that much about it though. So.
Well, it's kind of like everyone's already been screwed over, so it's not like it's going to help anyone. They're already in prison or possibly dead, whatever happened on that.
I want him to go to prison mostly just because I think it would be funny more than anything.
Yeah, I mean, for a government agent, I'm fine with you thinking it's funny, but it is worth. I mean, it's worth remembering. It's a pretty serious. I mean, he is a human being, and any time in prison is
yeah. I mean, I don't know. When I say go to prison, I don't necessarily mean life, but like.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think there are worse things that could happen to you than prison. Honestly.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So I don't know. And I'm sure he'd probably do it right there. He's probably gonna end up being the guy that like gets all these favors from the guards and.
Yeah, I was gonna say prison for an ex-DEA agent. I don't think is gonna be that bad.
Yeah, he's probably gonna end up being like the kingpin there or something.
Well, yeah. I mean,
if they put him in with gangs, he might fuck him up. But I can't.
Was your point, Tim, that they would take care of him just because he's already a government agent?
I think that there's going to be, because he didn't it wasn't like he went off and just there was an ex-cop who went off and killed a bunch of other cops and they burned him alive. That's different. But he just stole a little money. I'm sure there's plenty of cops who will take a little bit of money. It's not like you, just like anyone will. You take a little bit of money if you can. I mean, this wasn't a little bit, but he's part of that kind of profession already, so I don't know. I don't feel like it'd be that bad. I mean, he works for the judge. He works for that whole system, basically. And and even like the guards. I mean, he's an ex-DEA agent. Well, okay, like they're not gonna. I don't know. Who knows?
I think the other thing is like, as far as like his peers and everything, I feel like police officers and people like that maybe have less respect for the people that they capture than they should, maybe. So like I imagine like his friends are probably like think it's like it was like cool that he stole his money from this guy who they were trying to capture anyways. I mean, not that they stole it from them or whatever, but like obviously the government wasn't happy about it.
Yeah, but there's a difference between.
You guys know what I'm saying?
Yeah, the
like
government's
his friends
position.
are probably like, dude, you like, I don't know. I just keep imagining.
Yeah, you're ballsy enough to steal $1 million from a criminal. I
just keep imagining like how the DEA works in Breaking Bad, and I'm sure it's nothing like that. But like, you know, like I don't know. They probably like most of the people on the same level as him probably don't care. Maybe people in charge of him are mad about it. But.
Just out of curiosity, when I talk, do you see me or the YouTube video?
I still see you.
Okay, good. Well, yeah, any other thoughts on the DEA agent? I just sent out a tweet asking people what kind of sentence they think he deserves, so if you have an opinion, send us a tweet, let us know.
Yeah, just be careful or else it might. Don't say anything about going into wood chippers or something like that, because then, God forbid, you use angry speech on the internet.
Yeah, and Twitter is not going to bat an eye at a subpoena. They'll email
like, yeah, we'll give up all the information. Just let us. Just
Yeah, which actually reminds me of another story that we got to get to. What was it? AT&T, AT&T and WhatsApp. It's a kind of a texting, chatting app. They both. The headline is they scored low marks on the EFF's privacy scorecard. So we'll get to that eventually. But again, any thoughts on this? Yeah, don't tweet about putting people through wood chippers. If you theoretically you only should avoid that if you're serious about it, but the government doesn't
you should only
care if you're serious.
A government agent, especially if it's a government troll who sits behind a desk and smacks her little hammer and goes, "You go to jail forever," like that. If you're just a normal person, they don't really care unless you're bullying and it becomes an ad campaign to save bullying or something like that. So don't do it to little children or old women. Anyone else is fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
I might be oversimplifying it, but you get the gist.
I feel like the people that I always see ad campaigns for are like teenage girls.
Yeah, that's more what I was mean by little compared to this 70-year-old cunt.
Oh boy, there it goes. Oh boy.
Oh, God, I couldn't use that.
What?
Wait, why
No, it's not that I can't. That was the one thing I didn't say last time.
Yeah, trying to
I was like
avoid
purposely
it.
not saying
Tim,
it, but whatever.
Tim is on this like completely offensive. Like
I don't like being told what I can say.
He's going through this phase, and I swear every day he's just
I'm turning into like a 14-year-old boy.
The most offensive word he can think of, and I mean, I don't care about language. It is what it is. Just whatever. But I'm just interested at the fact that Tim just decided all of a sudden I want to be as offensive as I possibly can, and it's been interesting. So
I'm trying to
decide. Not like all of a sudden. I feel like he's.
It's always he's never minded swearing or anything. It's just he's had some choice words recently, some particularly offensive words that he's used a little more often than he used to. So
I'm trying to find out who my life as a child and who's going to get offended at stupid things like that. That's what I'm doing, Daniel. And you just lost. You're like a 2-year-old. But
he's just at the top of his game right now, though.
Yeah.
It's like his I don't know. I'm trying to think of something like, was it Picasso's blue period or something?
Yes.
Well, yeah,
just being so angry.
Chris Cantwell got a lot of publicity for using the N-word, so you never know. People might start going crazy on Twitter, and we'll suddenly get a couple thousand views, on one show. So maybe it's a good thing, Tim.
I
You
will
never know.
say, just out of of not sounding like I haven't used that one on the show yet. Correct.
Not that I can remember. No
I
idea.
don't think any of us has. Yeah, I think it would have been a bigger deal. I would have remembered it if we had.
Because I remember the one time we were talking about internet in Africa, we were even that little bit. We were like, nah. So I said some stupid things about access to internet. But
Yeah. Something along the lines of nobody in Africa knows what the internet is.
yeah, and then I tried to say immediately that was wrong, and then you just laughed for 5 minutes, and I couldn't. What am I
Anyway,
supposed to do whenever I'm not the one who edits the final thing? Daniel
should
can
we
put
get
whatever
to
he says.
this? Should we get to this video about the Dutch government? Anything mean to say about Dutch people, Tim?
Yes.
But they're like, yeah, I don't know. They eat mayonnaise and the French fries. They're a bunch of fat fucks, and you're gonna die of cholesterol.
Wait, they eat mayonnaise on their French fries?
I think so. Isn't that Dutch?
I think that's a lot of Europeans, but
I thought, yeah, I'm thinking like French class back in high school. They're like, well, this is what the Dutch do, and this is what the French do. I don't think it's this.
I feel like the Dutch are
divided.
somebody. I feel like the Dutch, like, for some reason, deserve to be. You're allowed to be angry at them. I don't know why. Maybe it's because of Austin Powers or something. But I feel like I'm allowed to. I feel like I'm allowed to hate Dutch people.
I just don't think they
Dutchmen.
I don't know. You don't really hear that much about them. What do they do over there?
Yeah, that's why you're allowed to hate them, because
are
nobody cares about
are
them.
we ever going to talk about Bitcoin news, or are we
No.
just becoming that podcast? Are we well
We're
known
becoming that
enough
podcast with someone who can't say anything. What?
Are we well known enough now that we can just talk about whatever we want and people will still love us?
No.
I hope not.
We're approaching that
not.
point. I mean, we're
No,
getting
we're
there.
not.
We're growing fast. Anyway,
No.
yeah, we'll get back to
All
to the
two of our
Bitcoin
listeners
news.
just jumped off.
No, we get a lot more. I mean, maybe live. You never know how low it could be, but
That's
we
what I was
we
talking
get some
about.
decent numbers over the week and after we publish and stuff. Anyway, we will get to this video. If you have any thoughts on the DEA agent, his sentence, what it should be, what it might be, any questions, or still any headlines you want us to cover, send us a tweet. Go to umeandbtc.com/live. There's a button right there. It'll fill in everything. You can watch us. You can listen. And vote in our poll with the about the block size limit. Should we up it to 20 megabytes or not? Or should we just stop fucking talking about it? I don't know. Let us know what you think. Anything by way of introduction, Tim, that we should say before we just let this video go? I know you read the question, but I'm assuming that they're going to ask it as part of the video. Anything we should add? This is Andreas Antonopoulos before the Dutch government.
It's a 2-hour session. If you want to look for it, he has like a 30-minute keynote speech, and he does questions.
This video is not the whole 2 hours, though. It's 4 minutes,
no, it's like a huge thing. It's just I guess they had some kind of. He went before them and was speaking on Bitcoin. They were asking him questions. So yeah, you just play it.
Okay, cool. I remember watching the Antonopoulos before the Australian Senate, I think, and it was a pretty fascinating. Yeah, maybe, I don't know. He might have done I'm sure he has done a few. Now it's Dutch, but I just really do like. I like the fact that the conversation is happening. Obviously, I think the lawmakers are a joke, but they're respectful to him and they listen to him a little bit, and they probably don't. They won't ultimately listen to his anti-regulation spiel as much as they should, but they talk to him. They think he's kind of cool, and I think that's kind of cool. Maybe I don't know. Anyway, I'll let it get going. Okay, that was pretty incredible. One of the first things I want to say is I wish that I had kind of thought about that last night because I remember one of our special guests, Mike, was asking like, "Well, I don't really know. Bitcoin goes up and down, and all this stuff happens. I don't really know if I can trust the price." And I think I gave a decent answer, but this stuff. Well, first of all, Andreas Antonopoulos mentioned, well, the investment stuff is kind of more like gambling. That's not what Bitcoin is about. And then this example of the bike registration, just as a reminder that Bitcoin is not about the price. I mean, it's cool to make money if it happens. Obviously, everybody loves money, but there is so much more that you can do with Bitcoin, and we have not even scratched the surface. I'm still baffled by that door that you can unlock by sending a Bitcoin transaction. There are so many incredible things that you can do with programmable money. That's that's what I want to say for starters, and that's uh, I wish I kind of brought that up yesterday for us. It'll be tomorrow when you guys hear that. But anyway, any thoughts, Tim, John, on the investment? Any good opinions that he had? Any bad opinions that he had? I don't know.
Oh,
I tend to agree with pretty darn close to 100% with Antonopoulos, which is dangerous. It's dangerous to trust somebody that much, but he really is a smart guy.
well, dangerous, but we talked before. There's trust is unavoidable.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
I
That's
mean,
true.
at some point, pretty much everything you know in life you learn from somebody. So
Absolutely.
there's
I'm kind
one
of
thing I want.
yeah. Go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
I was just gonna say it's kind of there was this thing called Bitcoin Wednesday is what this group was called or something. The one that we just heard, the one that was interviewing him. But apparently, I don't know if it's part of the Dutch government because that was the title of the video was him before the Dutch government. Is there a part of the Dutch government that is branded Bitcoin Wednesday? Because they had a Twitter
No,
account and everything.
I think Bitcoin Wednesday is just well, it says it's a conference.
Okay,
It says
interesting. I'm
at
not
the
It
top
says
of the
it's a
page.
monthly conference in the Netherlands.
okay.
It
So
says
maybe
at the
they
request of the Dutch government, a series of critical questions about cryptocurrencies were asked of Andreas Antonopoulos during
okay.
Bitcoin
Cool.
Wednesday on April 1st.
Interesting. All right, go ahead, John. What did you have want to say?
That he at the end he said that one little thing about using the network as the escrow service and not having anybody take custody of the funds. Do you know exactly what he was talking about?
Well, yeah, that's there are some really creative solutions out there with multi-sig and with time locked bitcoins. And basically what you can do and I'm sure I'm going to botch this, but hopefully the idea gets across. You can deposit bitcoins to a time locked multi-sig address and then over time you can overwrite that transaction with a different kind. So basically, you put the money in, and it's locked there for a certain time. And during that time, depending on how the escrow goes, you can overwrite the transaction in a way that will send the money to you or to me, depending on how the escrow goes and how the deal goes. And again, maybe that's completely botched, but the point is that it's programmable money. You can distribute the keys, you can lock the money. It's basically the possibilities are unlimited, I think. And maybe whatever I just described is not the escrow that he's talking about, but the point is that you can make some pretty crazy stuff happen on the Bitcoin network. I don't know, does that make sense or any other issues?
I can't really say anything about this. I didn't hear the video at all. And then
Wait, seriously?
No, I couldn't hear the video at all.
Did
Like,
you
was it too
install
quiet?
the app?
Yeah, you might have had to
Oh,
accept.
okay. Okay. Well, maybe.
All right, whatever.
No.
Yeah, you had to
Well,
like.
I have it on the side.
Well, you also.
oh well.
I don't know.
We'll
I mean, like when
whatever.
Daniel
Oh,
started
no, it's
playing,
asking me for permission now. Yeah, that was probably
yeah.
the problem.
Good
Smooth move,
job,
Tim.
Tim.
You and your governmental mindset, you won't give permission to anybody. You filthy statist. You probably wanted Google Hangouts to pay you for a license to use to use YouTube, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't like. Yeah.
I was
No,
just gonna make
weird.
fun of him for being incompetent and
Well,
say,
that's-
why is he on a
there's that,
Bitcoin
too.
content?
That's a
Why is
lot
he on
easier.
a
Hey,
Bitcoin
we're having a
podcast if he can't use YouTube?
Where is it? I'm having a bad day, John. I got my first ticket today, John.
Oh
did?
yeah,
Daniel and I
a
did.
$2
This
parking
thing.
ticket.
This idiot in
it's
Stuart
a-
thinks I'm gonna pay it.
It's a
Tim,
parking ticket.
Are you
Yeah,
gonna pay
I got
off the man thing?
I had a $55 parking ticket.
Holy shit!
We're down.
That
Tim,
was my first and
location.
only ticket.
That's not even a road, you idiot. Dolman?
Tim, you should try and pay them in Bitcoin. See if they take it.
Nah.
You should try to pay
I
them
remember.
in plastic pennies.
Yeah,
Since
they're worth
more
right?
than.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even notice this. It says there's a $2 fine. If you don't pay it within 2 hours, it goes up.
What?
It goes up to $5 if you don't
2
pay it.
hours?
Yes. It says the $2
That
fine
can't be right.
indicated above must be paid to and received by the police department, Stowe Township, within 2 hours from issuance of tag. If not paid within 2 hours, the fine shall increase to $5. You may mail the fine in this envelope to police headquarters, and in that case, the amount shall also, in all cases, be $5. Even though we say 2 up here, just 2. We just lie our asses off. Failure to
Like, so if
2
you
hours, so
if you
result
wanna-
in the summons with added penalty and cost. Anyway, yes.
I like how they're like, if you mail it, it's automatically $5.
It's not 2.
So wait, you will get a summons? That's kind of interesting.
That's what they say, but I'm sure that says it on all of them. And I've always heard of people saying like, "Yeah, I have 50 parking tickets." I'm not gonna.
Oh yeah, no, I mean,
Yeah, I would just ignore it. And if you get summoned, that will make for a great story.
Well, yeah, no,
So
Tim,
just-
I'm not even. Tim, I'm completely serious about because I got one too. I got the exact same thing, but I watched a video with Derek J. And he went to court and sat down in the courtroom for like 20 minutes for a $15 parking ticket. And like this, they go in, and like there's a prosecutor there, and he's like, so, and they bring up the parking attendant, and they're like, so, just describe your employment. What's your job? And they like get all this background, and he's like, so where were you on this day? And she's like, oh, I was patrolling this street. And okay. So how do the parking meter, like, do you know how the parking meters work? What kind of maintenance do you do on them? Oh, I do this and this. Well, if there was anything wrong with the parking meter, would you know about it? Oh yeah, it would show up error codes and stuff, and they just go on and on with all these questions for like 10 or 15 minutes, and then finally they're like, all right, prosecution's done. Derek, any response? He's like, nope, no questions. And they're like, oh, are you able to pay the $15 today? He's like, yeah, I got the money. I'll pay the clerk. All right, court adjourned. Like, what the hell? But no, my point is though, Tim, we should seriously do that. If you or I end up with a summons, I'll go in and I'll record it, and you can record me, and maybe it'll turn out to be.
Are you allowed to
or
do that? Are you
$60.
allowed to record something like that? I guess you would have seen him do it, yeah.
Yeah, why wouldn't you?
I don't know what they do.
I know, like with Ross Ulbricht, no cameras.
Yeah,
that's
that's
evil.
different.
But anyway, okay, cool.
Yeah, well, if you guys get summoned, to ask them if you can pay in Bitcoin when they ask if you can pay the fine.
That's all I have. So
The
seriously,
hilarious thing is that it probably cost them more than $15 just to do that here.
Yeah, exactly. That's
the most
the whole
hilarious
point.
part.
Yeah. That's completely true. I mean, because you got to pay the judge, the prosecutor, the parking attendant. I think there were actually 2 parking attendants. So, yeah. Anyway,
And like, yeah, was there a jury there or anything?
no, it was
Because
just the judge.
they don't pay juries, but like you also have to consider that like those people are taking off time where they could be making money for themselves. So
Yeah,
just like the value that is
absolutely.
not being made right now.
Yeah. Um, Seriously, audience, stay tuned because that could be a thing. If we get summoned, we might have a fun
Yeah,
time with it. So,
it's not going to happen, I'm sure.
well, I know
But
you're
if
We're
probably
it
right.
not worth,
does,
Daniel. We're not worth taking down.
It's true. It's true, which I'm completely okay with that. I don't want to be worth it. All right, so we got a. I did a story. Tim did. I don't know. He kind of did 2 stories because with the video and all. So I guess it's time to turn it over to John if Tim didn't steal his one and only story. So I'm gonna let
no,
John
yeah,
take it away in a moment. I'm just gonna remind people. YouMeandBTC.com/live. Watch, listen, tweet us with the hashtag YMB Live. There's a button right there, and vote. And if you're listening on the podcast, it's going to be open all week. I would love to hear what your thoughts are on the block limit debate. Should it be 1 megabyte or 20 megabytes? So get there and vote anytime during the week. I'm going to see if there's any results yet. Looks like it's 100% on hell yeah. We need to up the capacity. So I'm not. I still can't really decide what my response would be. I would lean towards yes, but I really want to say this is a dumb debate. Let's not talk about this. But then again, if you say it's a dumb debate, that's kind of arguing against leaving it at 1 megabyte, which I'm not sure I want to do. So I'm still thinking about my response. But anyway, youmeandbtc.com/live. You can do anything you want from there. We are going to. I see 2 articles here
it's
or
the
wait.
same one. Yeah,
Okay,
I
cool.
Joe got too
posted it in
excited.
the chat and like it didn't show up, so I did it again and then it showed up twice. Google was
Sweet,
just
sweet.
being laggy, I guess.
Honestly, what the heck, Google? All right, it's all you, John.
Yeah.
Go for it.
All right. Yeah. So I didn't find any super interesting articles this week, but this one. Well, first of all, I love the picture for this one. It's
Yeah, what the heck
great.
is that? It's
Well,
just
that's the. I guess I'll talk about it and then we can talk about the picture. So
okay.
it's about this guy Anthony Watson, who I guess was the CIO at Nike. What is that? Chief something officer, investments
Information.
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 Okay, that makes sense. So he was the chief information officer at Nike, and he left after 6 months to join BitReserve as the CEO. And I don't know. I guess people are making a big deal out of it because this guy's really young and he had this crazy job at Nike. Like I don't even want to
Yeah.
know how much money he was making there. And he's like, I feel like I'm gonna go with this Bitcoin startup because like I don't know, it seems cool. I don't know. It seems like the people who end up like really successful at a young age are kind of have this attitude that like that, and I kind of like that. So yeah,
Yeah, I
I
mean,
think they've
if
already been
I
successful, for why not try something else? Because if they fail now, they've already done something. Versus people who are just like, well, we just need to like keep everything the same because we can't just do Nike and just stay there at your job for 40 years.
well, I mean CEOs um usually have a really short shelf life, anyways. And like even if they keep being a CEO, they usually don't stay at the same place for that long. Yeah, like a lot of CEOs are only CEOs for like 5 years or something. That's pretty common.
I think shelf life was an interesting term there, but it works. I
Well, that's
You all
also
know.
true too because sometimes there's people like that's an extremely stressful job and like a lot of those guys retire really young and like people could trash talk them but like they might actually deserve it sometimes. Like those
I
people go through a lot, but
You all know I'm a cheapskate. We say it every other show, but I really am. I have an interesting fascination with low living standards. I think it's possible to get by in this world and have a great time with very little money. So I basically I agree with this decision. If I ever get filthy rich enough to live on a average, even a low salary, if I had enough savings to live on even a fairly low salary for the rest of my life, then I could deal with that. I could accept a lower, even though I'm filthy rich, I could accept a lower salary if I was able to not necessarily stop working, but to just do whatever the heck I want. Which for this guy, it could be working for BitReserve instead of Nike. Although I'm sure he's still making a nice chunk of change. But anyway, yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
that's kind of
he looks pretty boss in that picture. So like, I hope
yeah
they're
yeah
paying
yeah.
him a lot.
Is that picture a thing or is it just him and some babes?
I
Putting that
think that's
together.
him. I don't know why they would have put that in there because it's kind of
Yeah.
awkward.
This
It's
is a
kind of like
young guy with two weird. Yeah, I'm a guy kind of standing.
clutching. It's a really suave-looking guy with like a blue tuxedo and a, like slick back hair and a bow tie, like clutching two blonde women at his sides.
And they're
Like
holding up their fingers like they're guns for some reason. So
no, I didn't even realize that's what they were doing. But
Yeah,
yeah,
it kind of looks like a
it's like
James
a
Bond
Charlie's Angels thing.
yeah,
thing. Anyway, cool. Yeah, well, maybe that'll be me someday. After I get filthy rich off the podcast, I'll go work for like, well, I don't know, like a
Well,
car
you can't.
garage because it would be fun.
You can't. Well, that wouldn't be fun. First of all, and second of all, you need to make enough to also support Tim and I.
yeah.
Or
Oh,
Tim
that's
and me,
true.
I
That's
guess,
true.
because we have to be
Yeah.
mooching off you for the rest of our lives.
Well,
You have to
I've
also
actually
consider that.
I've already decided that so maybe actually I guess this goes completely against what I've already said about low living standards. When I get filthy rich, I'm buying a private island and I'm never leaving. I'm just going to sit on the beach every day, get extremely unhealthily tan and
Yeah, I hope you get melanoma.
and I'm just gonna look at the sunrise and listen to what? No, not the sunrise, the sunset. I'm not getting up early. That's dumb crap. Uh,
Well, it's all relative. I mean, you could just stay up really late.
that's true. I could watch the sunrise and no, watch the sunset and the sunrise without ever going to sleep in between. But sunrises, sunsets, and waterfalls. That's all I need. Uh, and maybe a hurricane here or there, because that's kind of the downside of a private island in the Atlantic. But anyway, cool. Well, let's see. I guess hopefully you guys have some more stories eventually, but I'm gonna start with this this the privacy story that I mentioned with AT&T and WhatsApp. I hate that name, WhatsApp.
WhatsApp.
That's such a dumb
It's
name.
not very good. Do you ever use? Do you have it?
I have. For
What is it? I've
the
never
purpose.
used it.
It's just texting. Honestly, it's an app that I guess the argument is that it's free texting because you don't have to use your regular service. You just do it on Wi-Fi if it's available. I guess. I mean, maybe there's some extra features like adding friends or something. I don't know, but that's really all it is. It's just messaging. And I
Speaking of
guess
this, I might get a smartphone pretty soon.
oh boy, coming out of his cave.
We can have a whole episode about that.
Yeah. You finally have a mobile Bitcoin wallet and stuff. But actually, no, I have had a use for WhatsApp in order for I was able to text somebody in India without extra fees, so I guess there's that. But anyway, I'll just read the first paragraph here. Well, the headline is WhatsApp and AT&T receive low marks on EFF privacy scorecard. For 4 years, the online privacy advocate group Electronic Frontier Foundation has released scorecards in an effort to quantify the security of consumer data on messaging apps and held by larger companies like Google and AT&T. This year, despite some recent breaches, the Who Has Your Back scorecard reflects changing attitudes among users and big data companies. And they actually have a quote here from the report, so I might as well just keep going. It's kind of interesting. Overwhelmingly, this is the report itself. Overwhelmingly, tech giants began publishing annual reports about government data requests, promising to provide users notice when the government sought access to their data, and requiring a search warrant before handing over user content. Those best practices we identified in early reports became industry standards in a few short years. So that's a good start, actually. I do like that the tech giants are concerned about privacy. Okay, they'll still hand it over if there's a search warrant, so they're not really going to save your ass. But it's cool that they're at least thinking about it, and they at least want to look good. I guess it's a start. And there's some bullet points here about criteria on the scorecard. Following industry standard best practices, informing users about government data demands. Now that one's huge. I mean, it is good to know when the government wants your data, because if I yeah, I mean that would be huge for me if somebody was after me, and I would want to know. Obviously, that's a pretty straightforward benefit. I think. I mean, at least you know if the government's coming after you in advance, and you can try and deal with it instead of them just analyzing your data for months without you knowing, like they've done with the whole Snowden thing and phone calls and such. That's dangerous because they could find something wrong with you and come after you without you even knowing. So definitely, I love the idea of knowing about government demands. And I remember, well, there's a couple phases to this story. I remember hearing a while back how the government would send out notices, and as part of the notice, it would say you're not allowed to tell anybody that uh, that you received this notice. Like, what the heck? Like, and it had to do with websites and such. And there was a discussion about, okay, what happens if let's say I'm a tech giant, and I have a little badge on my website that says I have never been contacted by the government requesting user data. And then let's say that I do get a request from the government, and I remove that badge from my website. I don't go around saying, "Hey, the government asked me for this data and told me not to tell anybody about it." All I do is remove that little badge on the corner of my website that says I've never uh, been asked for special data by the government. It's kind of clever. Any thoughts? Do you guys think that would still constitute telling people that you've been
It would if
investigated
they
and
wanted
stuff?
to.
Yeah, yeah, that's really what it comes down to. I mean, the government can say whatever they want. Um, but anyway, and then after that, pretty much the exact same thing happened. Was it the whole wood chipper Ross Ulbricht thing? Was that Ross Ulbricht? Or no, wow, was that RT? Was that the website that had the comments? Russia Today.
I believe it was RT. Yeah.
Okay, so I remember them reading. This was on Free Talk Live. They read the subpoena on air, and part of the subpoena said, "You're not." Well, no, it was like really delicate. It's like, we ask you not to disclose this information, even though you're not really forbidden to. We would really like it if you wouldn't tell people about this. And if you are going to disclose it, at least let us know first so we can have some kind of conversation about it. And RT's just like, no, we'll just tell people about it. Or I don't really know how it went down, but it got out no problem at all. So. Anyway, I started rambling again. Any thoughts on this whole privacy thing? on the government revealing data or asking for data and then telling people not to reveal that they've been asked for data. Any thoughts? Any good?
Well,
Well, it's go ahead.
I think that as a company, if you pretty, I think if you don't tell your customers that their data is being taken by the government, I can understand. Obviously, if the government's like, yeah, don't tell, because what are you going to do? But you should still tell people. It's still their information. Well, it's not really their information, technically, even that. I just feel like that's just the better thing to do. You don't have to be a dick about it and just leave people in the dark. Any help you can give people, if the government's already just like, for some reason, taking all their stuff, why not just let them know? But
Yeah, I mean, I can see that. Why not just? Yeah, why wouldn't you let them know? I mean, unless the government did say you shouldn't do this and will prosecute you if you do reveal this. I mean, I can see the hesitancy there, but barring that, why the heck wouldn't you let them know? That's a really good point. I mean, just they ask for your data. You're one of my customers. I want to take care of you and let you know that they asked for your data. So that's I like that point. Why not? Uh, this I mean, this could be a really big thing in the Bitcoin world because there are a lot of gray area things that can happen with using Bitcoins and trading Bitcoins and buying things with Bitcoins. And if you're using an exchange or just some kind of service, the government might get upset eventually, and they might go to that service and say, "Hey, give us all your trading data for the past 2 years." And that could be a serious possibility because who knows what kind of stuff goes on in the Bitcoin world with when there's pseudonymity, right? I mean, that's a lot of people freak out about it, and I don't think you should, but it is true that it's pseudonymous and people can do things relatively easily without people knowing. And so it would be super easy for the government to say to Coinbase or Bitstamp, listen, there's this guy out here. He looks pretty darn sketchy. Can you help us out and tell us what you think he's been doing and give us all the information that you have on him? I could see that happening no problem. And in a sense, I would be scared to death because some companies especially U.S.-based companies like Coinbase, they're not going to refuse that. I mean, even in the Bitcoin world, even in this giant place that loves privacy, Coinbase is an idiot. Are idiots? I never know if you're talking about a company, is it singular or plural? I don't know. The people that work at Coinbase make some pretty stupid mistakes sometimes, and I I I mean I use Coinbase sometimes, and they have my data, so I'm sure that's probably a dumb move on my part. And I'll be honest, I could see problems coming around. You never know, because they have data and they can give it up. I guess my biggest point is that I don't think a company like Coinbase is going to stand up to the government. Even though they're in the Bitcoin space and even though the Bitcoin space loves privacy, I don't see Coinbase standing up to the government. They just don't have that kind of reputation. There are other companies like, I mean, Bitstamp comes to mind because they're not US based, and I remember just in general, they got a reputation boost from me when they were hacked. Part of their wallet was hacked, and they said, "Well, we still have the funds. We're going to cover all of our user funds, and they're still around." They got a little bit of a reputation boost from me for that. I mean, that has nothing to do with privacy. I don't know what their stance is on privacy, but it's an interesting thing to think about, and I would trust Bitstamp more than Coinbase if I had to compare. Uh, but anyway, I don't know. Are there any companies out there that you guys? There have to be some. I feel like we've covered some pretty big stories. I know Yahoo, right? They're pretty good with privacy, right? And they're encouraging encryption Yahoo email and stuff. Any
I
other
remember
companies
talking
that
about that a
you
long
know
time
of?
ago, but
Yeah, I don't know, companies or just privacy-related stories that you know of, good things or bad things that might be worth sharing. I'm not seeing this going anywhere.
not really.
I t- All right, whatever. Um, I'll see it. I'll wrap up this one a little bit more. There's a few more bullet points. Disclosing policies on data retention, disclosing government content removal requests, and pro-user policies like opposing backdoors. So, oh, here they do list some companies that might be. Oh, interesting. Some bigger technology companies like Apple, Adobe, Yahoo, and WordPress received full marks across the board, in some cases showing improvement. That's actually fascinating. I hate Apple, but apparently they have some decent security standards
Well,
or
yeah,
I would hope
privacy
so with how big
standards.
they
didn't
are.
didn't we talk about how they were encrypting iPhones so that they couldn't even get data from them?
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. I think it was the whole Apple secure element thing. Um, this could
And
be
that's
another thing that I'm botching, but
we we were covering that. Yeah, we talked about that because it people brought up multi-sig stuff for like privacy or for like encrypting data.
yeah, well, and hardware
So,
wallets. Theoretically, there could be a hardware wallet like built into an iPhone. I think was something we talked about.
well, we were talking about how basically, I guess some people wanted to have it where like the owner of the iPhone would have one part of the key,
Oh, I do
the
remember that.
like Apple would have one part of the key, and then the government would have the other part of the key, so
Yeah,
that
yeah,
like nobody could.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think yeah, the government having it is kind of no, but
Well, right.
yeah,
That's one of the bullet here. The bullet points here is opposing back doors. And that was kind of the story. It was the government wanted a back door into your iPhone. They
yeah,
wanted to have that part of that multi-sig key, or maybe even, I mean, you configure multi-sig so that you could configure it so that one key would have full access, but the other keys would need to either pair up or combine with the master key. Multisig can do that. You can have a master key. You can have one key that can always access data or do anything by itself, along with other keys that don't have full access and stuff like that. And yeah, people wanted to give the government some kind of master key that would allow them to access any smartphone at will. Just because, oh, well, if you have nothing to hide, then why can't you let them see it? Uh, But I'm assuming that Apple was against that because they did. Like I said, Apple received full marks across the board, and so I'm assuming they were against that kind of policy. I don't know that for sure, but you're
well,
right.
yeah,
That was a
because
really
yeah, I mean and the thing we were talking about it was that like they couldn't even get stuff that people had on their iPhones. Like Apple couldn't even
yeah,
get
yeah,
that.
yeah,
That's how they have
yeah.
it done,
I think
which is
that yeah, I think that was more connected to the secure element and the hardware wallet thing, where it's on the phone, but you can't access it without special PIN codes and things like that. So even if you got hold of the device, it's a hardware wallet. You're not going to get in unless you have the codes, which you might not. So anyway, but then yeah, Yahoo was on here, which like I said, I thought they were pretty good with privacy. WordPress is a pretty nice company. I mean, I love their open source nature, and we use them for our website, so it's pretty popular, and it's good to hear that they have privacy. Twitter received 4 stars. Ooh, here's an interesting one. Facebook lost 1 star for not disclosing content removal requests. Interesting. I mean, that's uh, that's kind of weird. I mean, if the content is gone, people are going to notice. So is it that important to disclose it? I guess if you disclose that it was from the government, that's as opposed to just Facebook deciding we don't want this. I guess that's pretty valuable, but I don't know, content removal, it doesn't seem quite as important to me, but it's still it's something. It's just transparency. If might as well let people know if it happens, right? Especially when the government's involved. Reddit lost a star because the company hasn't released an official statement opposing backdoors that would allow government access to user data. See, that's just what we mentioned. Uh, I guess these companies put out official statements and say, yeah, we're not going to give the government backdoors because that's kind of stupid, and I guess that's a good thing. I'm surprised Reddit wouldn't do that though. Reddit seems kind of like a, just kind of in the I want to say progressive. That has a lot of bad
Uh,
connotations. But Reddit seems like they seem kind of like Yahoo. They're forward enough. They're innovative, and it seems like something like that would recognize the value of privacy. They would recognize the value of their users, and I feel like they would have. I feel like they would have gotten on that, but I don't know.
I had a love of Reddit, but haven't they been going down? Like, didn't they shut down a subreddit recently
Yeah,
because
they shut down a
people
lot of
like
them.
the it's like a
It
fat
was,
shaming
yeah, it
one.
was fat. Well, I think the thing was
Yeah,
called fat hate.
like as soon as
Wow.
I mean I'm not a participant in any way of that type of thing, but like as soon as I heard that, I was like, yeah, Reddit's on its way out
Yeah,
as
that's
far as
pretty
being cool.
fascinating, actually.
Well,
Yeah,
I
I
think part of
wouldn't
the
have.
problem, it was funny because they got it. I think it really started. They got banned because someone posted a picture of the Imgur staff, and it was or however you pronounce that.
Yeah, I don't
Um,
know.
and it was all of them, and then their dog, and then the comment was like, "This is Imgur's staff. Even their dog is fat."
Well, yeah, I
But
mean,
I think that's what started it.
yeah,
And
I'm not
they
gonna lie,
were. It was bad.
that does surprise me that Reddit would it would
I
intervene
think
that much, but
there's a lot
Yeah,
of
I mean
people
that's
on
like
Reddit though who do that, Daniel.
the
There's a
whole
lot of
point
people who
of
go
it
on Reddit.
was supposed to be that it's like driven completely by users. But
yeah, yeah,
didn't the
exactly.
same thing happen with 4chan too?
I've never used
Didn't
4chan.
everybody leave 4chan?
I thought they went
Oh,
to.
the went to
Didn't it just
8chan.
get?
Yeah, there is
Yeah. Why did
8chan,
they
I
leave
think,
though?
yeah. Because I think the moderators are starting to get too selective about stuff. Same
Oh.
kind of thing. Yeah.
And then it does mention about WhatsApp was rated the worst for its opposition to backdoors. Wait, oh, not
So
not
meaning they
rated the
were very
worst.
much.
Yeah, not rated the worst because they were opposed to backdoors, rated the worst on their stance
Yeah.
relating to backdoors. Uh, and they only received that credit because of because of the policy of its parent company, Facebook. Interesting. I didn't realize WhatsApp was owned by Facebook, but yeah. AT&T also received 1 star, and and at least follows industry standard best practices. WhatsApp provides no information to users about data requests and doesn't even publish a transparency report. Crazy. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's funny
go
how
ahead.
like I feel like most people aren't even aware that there are like things like transparency reports and stuff.
Oh yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, the average Facebook user, do they do they think about the government accessing their data? Actually, I mean,
I
some
think
people
people have
do.
been getting better and better at it, which is really good to see. But it's
Yeah,
still like, yeah,
some people opt out of a decent number of people that I know, even the people who aren't privacy freaks, they opt out of Facebook just because, well, maybe not so much because of the government. It's just the fact that any information being online they're uncomfortable with, and there's value in that, and people opt out of Facebook because of that. So okay, cool. I mean, that's kind of at least some people are sort of thinking about it, I guess is my point. So, um, and then there are people, who like use fake names but still want access to Facebook, which again is it's sort of valuable. So, and then there's Tim who just hates Facebook. Anyway,
I don't
cool.
hate it.
Well,
Well, do I? Maybe I do.
I mean they got a low privacy ranking, so we can
Fuck Facebook then.
jump.
Go.
I don't. Okay, we can jump to another story. If either you have one, feel free to paste a link. Reminder to everybody: check out youmeandbtc.com/live. I'm not sure. I haven't seen any tweets yet today. It's been a little bit of a slow day. We have a
Yeah.
retweet from David Wojtko. He's been an interesting friend on the air, and thanks for retweeting and paying attention. We also have a retweet from some loser named Tim. Not
Oh,
really sure why he would retweet us,
oh.
but
He like tried to step out and like actually act like people paid attention to him or even really noticed.
yeah.
Mm.
Uh, anyway, yeah, youmeandbtc.com/live. Especially if you're listening on the podcast, we definitely encourage you to get there for the live show every Wednesday from 1 to 3 p.m. Eastern. Uh, it we'd love to have you really, and send us tweets during the show. We'll read them on the air. Questions, comments, headlines, whatever. There's a link right on, or a button right on that page that will bring up the tweet box. And there's a poll also. Like I said, we'll keep the poll open all week. So get over there and tell us about the block limit, and if you want it to be 20 megabytes, 1 megabyte, or if you just want to stop talking about it, whatever whatever you think, let us know. It'll be open all week. And I guess what we'll do is, I'll post the new poll at the beginning of next week, and at the beginning of the show, when I take the old one down, we can just talk about the results. So get over there and cast your vote. And we definitely want to thank Jenna Trust one more time. Right, right there. Makers of wallofcoins.com. Great exchange. You can buy and sell Bitcoin with or for cash. Super quick, super easy. I use them every day, so I definitely encourage you to check it out at wallofcoins.com. And keep an eye out for new projects from Genitrust. I know they've got some crazy stuff in the works. I heard, though, something like 6 months. I really don't want to wait that long to see what they've got next, but I guess I'll have to. Although I'm sure they'll have plenty of cool stuff in the meantime. So, all right. So, are you guys gonna fight over the next story again? You guys gonna have like a fight to the death about who gets their voice on the air more?
No,
Any
mine's
any
already been on
any
there more uselessly, but
any good ideas?
I mean,
what, for an article?
I
I have
have,
more articles.
I have an article.
Yeah,
It's
let's
not
go for
super
it.
great, but
Oh, we'll make it
So
great.
great.
That
yeah.
happens all the time here. We
There are
talk
no
about
good
something
articles, but
dumb
we make
and
them good.
Oh yeah, this one is really all over the place. Like the headline is Bitcoin. Is it really ripe for a Greek rally? And they talk about Greece for like 2 sentences, maybe. The Greece stuff is like they're comparing it to Cyprus, and they're saying that the reason the price has been going up might be because people in Greece are buying Bitcoin because they think they're about to default on their debt or something. And that's kind of all speculative. I don't know. You guys can talk about that. There's also a video in there that has nothing to do with Greece, and it's
I
basically
have
just
noticed that
another
on
one
a
of these
couple
things.
Yeah, I've seen a couple websites where they just put random news videos on the top of a story, and yeah, they're barely
Well, it has to
related.
do with Bitcoin, and they talk about it in the article, but this article is really just like incoherent. Well, not incoherent, but there's no actual. They're not trying to say anything. It's just like a bunch of random crap that they threw into an article about Bitcoin. They're like, we'll put Greece on this because people will look at it. But the video is just another one of things of people talking about, like, I guess this is becoming...
worth playing, do you think?
No, it's not YouTube either.
Okay.
So
I mean, I could still play just the audio, but
no,
if it's not worth it, that's
no,
okay.
it's not worth it. It's just like, whoops. This has been becoming a theme, I guess. It's just another thing of people saying, well, yeah, we're not really into Bitcoin, but the blockchain is pretty cool. And then one guy's even like, that's been the fashionable thing this year. It's funny that he says it that way, but yeah, it's just, yeah.
Yeah, that really is pretty much all that they talk about on the news when they come to Bitcoin. They're like, it's kind of weird, kind of cool, but still too weird for me, I guess. There's a couple things I could touch on. Greece. I've seen several tweets recently saying, like, nobody's talking about Greece, but it's going way further underwater every day, and they foresee a quick collapse.
I was just looking at an article that came up. I think I just found it from Bitcoin Reddit, but it's about the Prime Minister going to Brussels and talking more and more about a bailout deal for Greece because of how bad it's getting there. And I think they're trying to convince them that if Greece goes down, everyone else goes down, but the rest of the EU's obviously not wanting to give them money.
Yeah, like, whoa, if we're going to go down, why don't we just give them all our money and then we'll still go down? But yeah, well, I am especially interested, though. We kind of mentioned this last week, I think last week, maybe 2 weeks ago. It's kind of a mean thing to say because a financial crisis is going to hurt people, but a financial crisis would be great for Bitcoin, right? I mean, it was last time for Greece, right? When this really was started one of the biggest bubbles we've had. I think it was the $250 bubble, before the $1,200 bubble, whatever. But Greece was saying, like, they tried to just seize money from bank accounts. They considered it, and there was a run on the banks, and people were trying to get all their money out, but they weren't really allowed. And Bitcoin shot up during that time. So listen, if it's going to happen eventually, might as well get it over with, right? So I guess in a sense, I'm advocating for a financial crisis, but it's got to happen, right? I mean, there's no way out of this.
That's got to be our question next week, our poll question.
Oh yeah, we did mention that. Should there? How do we phrase it? Yeah.
Do you think a financial crisis would be good for Bitcoin, or do you think it would be worth it? Something like that.
Yeah, that's an interesting question and a pretty good idea. So stay tuned, guys. Tune in next Wednesday. Definitely, we'd love to have you. But yeah, so it's gonna happen. Let's just get it over with. And I'm not in Greece, so I'll just reap the benefits with Bitcoin. Sorry, that was mean, but it might happen. What else was I going to say? The price, I think that's what I was going to touch on. The price, it's had an interesting few days. The price is a hard thing to talk about because it doesn't. Your conversation is going to be worthless in 2 or 3 days. Yeah, the price has started to peak. It went up to, or not peak, but rise, I guess. Went up to about 250, 251 or 2 maybe, and it's been a nice rise compared to the past couple weeks. But honestly, just in the past 4 or 5 hours, it's started dropping back down to closer to 240. So, whatever. It's the price. You can only talk about it so much, and then you just get. Never mind. None of it matters really because it just goes everywhere, and we'll just give it time, give it a shot in the arm with a financial crisis, right? What else they say here? Oh, remind me that I'm going to say what this is so that you guys can remind me. The story about Cameroon. Remind me to get to that after this one. I don't know, John, any other good things worth mentioning here? Crashing out of the euro, a mega rally. Oh yeah, they do mention Bitcoin's mega rally in April 2013, which occurred when capital controls were imposed in Cyprus. Is Cyprus part of Greece or is it different?
No, it's a
I
different
guess it's
thing. Yeah,
different. Okay, so
yeah, yeah. Yeah.
clarification there. It's close, but so it is a little different. I might have said
Yeah,
that.
that's. I think I said that at the beginning. They're comparing the. They're saying like this is the new Cyprus, or it's going to be the next Cyprus, I guess. But I mean,
Okay.
you can't conclusively prove that Cyprus was the one that was causing all that stuff. But
Yeah, because a lot of people argue that it was Mt. Gox fake money, that they were fake trades on Mt. Gox with these Willie and somebody else. They were bots that were running on Mt. Gox. And yeah, a lot of people argue that those bubbles were completely fake. And it's a pretty decent possibility. So, um, yeah, but I also I might have said earlier that it was Greece that where they were trying to take money out of bank accounts, and I apologize if that was wrong. All right, anything else on this one before we move on? Cool, cool, cool. Okay, so I don't actually have a link for this one because I covered a couple. I read a couple articles yesterday, and I wrote my own article. But I have some interesting thoughts, and I need some opinions here. In Cameroon, they ran a trial with a cryptocurrency called Trest, Trest. Basically, the government and some insurance related organization just went to a pretty small community, a tight knit community, and they said, hey, we developed this new cryptocurrency called Trest, and we just want you to use it. We're going to pick 500 people. Uh, middle aged, like no, pretty young actually, 15 to 35, I think. And they're just like, hey, we want you to use Trest as much as possible for 30 days. Just try it out. Tell us what you think. Tell us how it works, and because we just want to know if it's going to be any good. They did it. It went extremely well. The people loved it. They started developing special uses for it within just a few days. And now Cameroon wants to expand that project and basically roll it out to the entire population. Uh, they within a year they want to have like 500 retailers accepting it, and so yeah. Anyway, the point is, it's kind of like the Ecuador story that we covered a few weeks ago, John. I think that was your story, where Ecuador was gonna maybe try and make their own cryptocurrency, and we've hashed this out quite a bit, and
hashed.
it, oh gosh, yes, we did. I said that before too, haven't I? Uh, One of the biggest factors here is, well, how much control does the government have over their own cryptocurrencies? And when it comes to trust, I just don't know. There aren't really that many details available about how it works and what the government can do with it and things like that. So we don't need to hash that much more because we just plain don't know how much control the government has. But I don't know. I'll ask you guys what you think. I mean, is it good that they're trying out cryptocurrency? Is it? Would you have? Okay, I have an interesting point to make about why they didn't try to use Bitcoin itself, but I will ask you: do you think? Let's say that these companies, or not companies, countries. Let's say that these countries start to do pretty well with their own non-Bitcoin cryptocurrencies. Is that is that good, or would you rather that they just used Bitcoin and that everybody was kind of on the same page? Any opinions there? Basically, good or bad that they did the test, good or bad that they didn't use Bitcoin. Thoughts?
I I mean, it depends. Like you were saying, it depends how much control they have and everything. I can
Yeah,
say the
yeah.
same thing I said last week. If you make something that people think is like a cryptocurrency and it's really just it's just a digital fiat currency. I feel like that's terrible for the whole idea of cryptocurrency. But if it's actually better, I'm okay with it, I guess. I think it's good if it's legit.
Yeah, I might, and I'll get into this more about their consideration of Bitcoin. Now I'll try and describe what I know, but I might, again, I don't know, but they might not actually have too much control over it because I know that they did consider Bitcoin, which means that their main goal may not have been to have a digital currency that they control. If that was their goal, they would have never considered Bitcoin. They Because they would have wanted control. So that might not be their primary concern, and that would be a good thing if they didn't have full control over the currency. Oh, I mean, although
Yeah.
they would still have a pretty heavy influence because they run
Well,
the country. It's kind of like this hard fork debate with the block size limit. If they run the currency and they run the country, if they wanted to convince people to change the block limit, they could probably just release new software and make it happen. So that's an interesting
yeah.
aspect. But
I mean, the thing is, I feel like we've never seen a government ever opt for less control. So even if they still have control and they're just going for something that's less controlled, I still think that's
right.
great. And if that's the case, like you're saying that they weren't necessarily just trying to create their own thing, then I think I'm all for it. But yeah, I mean, anything that's a little bit better, I'm all for.
Yeah, and yeah, you're right. If it's a little bit better, that's a start. I've said that several times today. It's not perfect, but it's sure worthwhile. It's a start. We'll get there. I don't know what that says about me. I mean,
Well,
if
I think when
something
you're
is
it depends what you're talking about. I mean, generally, I think I'd say that way. But like I was saying, this story with government seems to be more and more control over time. So like, I feel like doing something that's like less controlling is actually a lot bigger than it seems. Even though you're like, oh well, they're only controlling less. I think that's actually kind of a huge deal because it's not like they're in this
yeah,
stationary place and then they're going to give up some control. It's like they're constantly controlling more and more. So when you control less, it's like more radical
yeah,
than it seems. I think, at least.
right. And if your goal is for them to just if your goal is for the state to just instantly go away, it's not going to happen like that. So so if you recognize that the level of control is not just going to instantly disappear, well then you realize, oh, well, this is a step in the right direction then. So sure, I'll take it. I want to go farther. And that might take time, but I'm not going to go against a step in the right direction. So yeah, I guess that makes sense. Uh, cool. Tim, any thoughts? I still want to describe why they didn't pick Bitcoin, but any thoughts on the whole sort of government-run cryptocurrency? Uh, yeah, I don't know. Actually, no. And then also for John, I still want to hear what about what would you think if every country? Okay, let's say best case scenario, every country had its own. Well, best case scenario, the governments had basically zero control over their own cryptocurrencies, but let's say that each one had its own different kind of cryptocurrency. So the question's not about controlling the money. I want to know, do you think it would be better or worse for each country to have a different cryptocurrency?
Um, I I don't know. That's like kind of an impossible thing to answer because I don't know how it would work. But I think generally it's people would say that it's going to be a lot easier, and we've heard things like this at the conference and stuff that we went to. But I think generally it's going to be a lot easier to transfer between currencies that are digital than not. So even if every country has its own cryptocurrency, it's going to be a lot easier to move
Okay,
back and
yeah.
forth between them. So I'd still say that's it. maybe it's not ideal, but I still think that's like pretty good. That would be pretty fantastic, actually.
Tim, you look like you were going to say something.
No, well, as far as like the only thing I can really think to talk about is just the one national or multiple national cryptocurrencies. At that point, I kind of like cryptocurrencies because the
Well,
entire point is that they're not linked to it, so I can't even really talk on that well
no,
because
well, you said national, and
I thought you
and
said national.
no, well, no, I said each country has its own, but I also said, let's say best case scenario, the government has zero control. They just so it's not really a national thing. It's just kind of a geographical thing
Like they
for different
decided to use
areas.
Litecoin here, they decide to use
Yeah.
something like that. Okay.
I mean, that's conceivable that something like that would happen.
Why though? Because like,
Yeah.
how is a
Because
cryptocurrency dependent on geography like that?
because I mean, people still transact in person and
Yeah.
people interact in person. I mean, it's less the case now that something like that is natural than it would have been in the past, but there's still geographical things that happen like that. I mean, we talked about like no, we haven't talked about it, but people have talked about like the Canadian Tire dollars and stuff like that. Like, I don't know. I mean, I don't think it's that weird that something like that would happen,
Right, and we did even we this
especially
one we
in
did
these
talk about.
smaller. I was just in these smaller countries where they maybe don't. They're not maybe not as connected to the world already. Like, it makes a lot of sense for something like that where they're not gonna necessarily know that everybody else in the rest of the world is using Bitcoin. If they get offered this other cryptocurrency, like they might just take that and stick with it.
Already set up with that. And, okay. I get what you
Yeah, I
mean.
mean,
We did just last week. We were saying how the the there were some Canadian business or no, I think I was just using Canada as an example. Maybe I don't remember, but there were businesses that were stopping accepting Bitcoin because people weren't using it. And the reason that I gave was just, well, if you're in Canada, you're going to use the Canadian dollar just because that's what you have, that's what everybody uses, and that's what you're used to. And I could see kind of factions developing like that. Even once we progress into cryptocurrency, different areas are just they're going to develop different currencies. And sure, it'll be a cryptocurrency, it'll be just as amazing as Bitcoin, but it's going to be a separate network. And I don't see a huge issue with that just because it's if a certain area just happens to start using one, especially when you consider that Bitcoin it has some issues when it comes to in-person transactions. I mean, just confirmation time and stuff like that. So if geographically people developed currencies that were better for in-person transactions, well, one area is going to start using it, and at the same time, another area is going to be developing a similar but different network. And if they're on different sides of a continent or different sides of the world, there's not really any reason for them both to use the same one because nobody on one side is going to transact with the other side, in person.
yeah,
So yeah, so I could see them developing separately, and as they continue to develop, there's not a ton of reason for them to merge together. There's not a ton of reason for one side to say, hey, I really think we should be using the same one, so let's do this whole conversion thing. No, I mean, if it's a in-person based cryptocurrency, sure, let's keep it. Let's have different ones for different areas. Not a huge deal.
yeah. I mean, there's also no reason if you're developing this to be used for in-person things. There's no reason for you to market it to anyone else. So like, even if
Right,
somebody's
right.
not already starting one somewhere else that you don't want to compete with, like, there's not really any reason for you to spread it anywhere except where you're going to be using it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And then always there's the benefit we always talk about of just competition, right? I mean, if you've got 50 different geographical kind of based cryptocurrencies, maybe one of them will have some weird feature that is so much better than all the other ones, and sure, then maybe at that point people will say, okay, that's pretty cool. Let's either use the same one or let's develop another one like it. And either way kind of works. I mean, you either if you can get people to accept a brand new one, okay, whatever, go for it. If you want to start using the same one as a different geographical location, not really that big a deal because sure, you're not going to be doing in-person business with the other side of the world, but the currency supply is not really going to be interfered with because if you do, if what I'm saying is with physical currency, say like gold or something, there are some really weird pricing issues when gold is concentrated in, say, China or India, or gold moves really quickly from France to Spain or something. There are historical examples of gold being in a location and people hoarding it or people buying a ton of it, and there are price differences, whatever. Even if you have a cryptocurrency that is designed to be used in person, that doesn't mean you can't use it on the internet. So there's not really any way for all the currency to get stuck in one place if it's used in two places on the opposite side of the world. That was a really weird explanation to do. We've never really talked about anything like this before, but I think that makes sense. You guys can tell me if you agree. Uh, Again, just even if it is a geographical thing, doesn't mean that it can't be used in a global manner. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. And like I guess I said at the very start of this whole conversation, I think the idea, not the idea, I guess like what seems to be the general consensus is that it's going to be a lot easier to change between cryptocurrencies than
Oh,
the other
yeah,
currencies.
absolutely. Yep.
So I don't have any problem with different cryptocurrencies being used all over the place. That's totally cool.
Yep. Yeah, and then like you say, I forget what they call them, like super wallets, where
Yeah,
they
yeah,
handle hundreds of currencies and convert them as you need them to your
yeah,
advantage automatically. So
yeah. Smart wallets.
there we go. Yeah, yeah. Any thoughts, Tim?
No,
I think he's falling asleep over there. All right.
no,
Well,
I'm
I
not
did want
falling
to say
asleep. It's just you
I,
keep
I
asking me if I have any thoughts on something, and I keep saying no.
yeah, because you're falling asleep and you're not
Yeah, I
thinking
mean,
of anything.
that would work. I can't really refute that, I guess.
Yeah.
That
Yeah, you already slept through breakfast this morning and you were half an hour late or something because you didn't wake up. Um, I do want another point that I've been trying to make for a few minutes here. Uh, the reason they didn't choose Bitcoin, and we've mentioned this once or twice on the show, but it was a while ago. One of the people that was kind of running this pilot test with the new cryptocurrency, he he said, before when they were considering how they wanted to go about this, they looked at Bitcoin, and one of the biggest issues they saw was that right now the electricity cost for mining is around, well, he said around $19 per transaction, but that analysis was from a while ago. I looked it up, and right now it's around $7 per transaction is spent on electricity. That's a pretty crazy number, right? I mean, that's expensive, right? And this even could play into the whole 1 megabyte versus 20 megabyte discussion because if we're going to be putting that much money into mining a block, we probably want to cram as many transactions into it as we can. Otherwise, I mean, maybe that's the way we could gauge. We always talk about the free market adjusting to adjusting transaction fees. Maybe $7 would be a reasonable number to say, well, if we don't increase the limit, somewhere down the road we're going to be paying $7 per transaction because that's what the miners pay right now. I mean, it's a weird projection, certainly not very accurate, but it's a number to go on. And that's expensive, and nobody. I'm not doing that. Sorry, nope.
Yeah, I
I
mean
mean,
that
not
defeats
without
the whole
payment
purpose.
channels. Right. Yeah. I mean, it is. It would be a huge hassle, and hardly anybody would use it. Now, we have talked about payment channels fairly recently, and there might be some things built on top of the Bitcoin network that could reduce those costs by combining transactions and doing clearing and everything. So maybe it would turn out to cost that much per transaction, but maybe one Bitcoin transaction could be a combination of 1,000 different users trading money, right? So there are different solutions, uh, but still, it's interesting to think that it's an interesting thought experiment to use $7 as a target per transaction, and that is a whole lot of money. And so I don't know. It's in a sense it's scary because well, if it's that expensive, maybe Bitcoin won't last very long. It's a possibility. It's out there. But anyway, we're dang coming up on 4 minutes left. That was a fun one to cover. A lot of different things that we hit in there. I'm still kind of fascinated by this whole new discussion about having different cryptocurrencies used geographically. So I'm sure we'll be coming back to that in future
Yeah.
episodes. We do that all the time. But Tim, if you're awake, that's your last chance. You got 3
You
minutes
can
left
see
to
me
say.
looking right into the camera. You okay? Never mind. Maybe
I've
you
seen
can't see
people
it.
sleep with their eyes open.
Like that. Yeah, no, not really. I mean, it's interesting. I think it'd be the more stuff that comes out about it, but I guess I guess I could see that especially happening, like what John was saying, where if it's like people who are separate, and if someone designs a cryptocurrency specifically for that, I could see that getting divided up like that.
So you're coming back to the geographical thing, and you're saying if basically you're just saying you could see that happening where different people in different parts of the world have different needs, and just on a strictly convenience basis, maybe it's like it's not really convenient for me to all of a sudden start using a currency from the other side of the world, so I'll just make my own. And now with
No,
the internet, it's not as inconvenient as it would be with fiat money, but
oh yeah,
still,
of course.
yeah,
I mean, I think people are always just going to want to change stuff too. Even if Bitcoin, even if it grows and becomes better and better, people are always going to want different things. So
yep,
if,
yep.
especially whenever you have governments like that, and they're going to, I don't think that you're going to ever have a geographic currency while governments are around that isn't controlled by them.
Wait. I think you said that backwards. You mean you don't think
Maybe.
that you're ever not gonna have a geographical currency?
No, I don't think that you're ever going to have a geographic currency like what we're talking about that's ever going to come
A
about. And
geographic cryptocurrency, you mean?
yeah, a geographic cryptocurrency that is specific to that geography, that if there's a government around that geography, they're going to have control of that. Like, there's
I bet
absolutely
there
no
already.
reason for what?
I bet there already are.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there are
No, I'm
already,
saying
but
there already are geographic currencies that aren't controlled by government.
Yeah,
like
that's like
what?
this trust. I mean,
I
like I said, I
guarantee
don't
you there
have.
are. How many cryptocurrencies are there?
But that are specific to a specific like they're only used in the geography. Or I guess I'm confusing as far as
I guarantee you there's at least one.
Yeah, there's
okay,
somebody
someone
probably
show
has
it
There
to
are
us.
built
like,
a
how many are there? Like thousands and thousands of cryptocurrencies? I'm sure there's one that like 10 people
Pittsburgh coin.
use.
Pittsburgh coin. Somebody could have made that, and it's just for people who like the Stillers and stuff. So.
Distillers and stuff.
I'll look it up right now. Pittsburgh
Oh man,
coin.
but you just got a minute left. I don't know. I might actually doubt that there's actually a Pittsburgh coin.
No, I don't see a Pittsburgh coin, but I guarantee you that there's a coin that's used geographically
Yeah.
that's not
Well, here's what
controlled
we'll
by a
do.
government.
We'll spend the week doing some research. We'll see what comes up, and we'll be back next Wednesday and tell people what we found. And
Or we'll
it'll
I'll
be
forget.
yeah.
your
Yeah, I'll
I'm
forget.
not
I
doing
know
any
I'm
research. You can do all that, then.
Your homework for the week, especially if you haven't watched live, is get to yumiandbtc.com/live and vote in our poll. Tell us if what you think about the block size limit. It's a huge debate these days, and we'd love to hear your thoughts on the opinion. You can fill in your own answer if you have some unique thoughts. You can also tweet us, open tweet lines all week long. Send the tweets to @UMeandBTC with the hashtag YMBLive. We would love to hear what you have to say. If you see any headlines throughout the week, be sure to send them our way. We can get them covered next Wednesday. Tune in tomorrow for a really interesting episode. Like I said, we had fun recording. We had fun. Yeah, it's pretty different. We recorded outside. I got to smoke a cigar while I was recording. We had some special guests on the show, good buddies of ours for a really long time, asking some interesting. They're beginners type of questions, but it's still really important stuff to remember and to cover and to think through about inflation and who knows what. So, cool. Anything before we go? Another huge thank you to Genitrust. They've been great to us all the time. They really have. Check out wallofcoins.com if you're interested in buying Bitcoin with cash, super quick, or selling Bitcoin for cash, available immediately in your bank account. That's what I love. That's really one of the things I love most about it. A cash deposit is available immediately, so no waiting for transfers or anything. So that's tomorrow, Thursday, and we'll see you next Wednesday. Anything before we go? Awesome. Thanks. Check us out, yumiandbtc.com. We love you.
We love you.